Sweet. Jamie, David, thank you guys so much for joining us for an episode of the Full Subject podcast. Talk to us a little bit just to start who you guys are, what exactly you do. And Jamie, maybe take it away.
Sure. So David and I are business partners with Royal LePage Wollstonecroft and Royal LePage Wheeler Sheehan. Okay. So those two brokerages, we've got physical locations in Langley, which Austin knows very well. Yeah.
We may even be there.
We're currently sitting in Maple Ridge, Mission, in Chilliwack. I also still sell real estate. A little bit more on the commercial side is my practice. My brother runs our residential team. And we've got a few other local businesses that we operate as well.
Yeah. And for me, residential real estate, along with Jamie and Corey on the brokerage side of things. So small team, just one other licensee. And then my wife, who just walked right by us as we began the podcast.
Yeah. How did you guys get into real estate in the first place? Was it accidental? Was it intentional? Just talk about your real estate kind of journey of how you got in.
JP's nodding at me like, you go, I was a child. I wasn't a child. I like had kind of a whole life before I got into real estate. I grew up in Scotland, did my education in divinity, which is kind of what you have to become a pastor. I always thought that was like from Harry Potter, like divination or something like that. And then immigrated to Canada when I was about 20. Started as a pastoral apprentice and then became like a youth young adults pastor before being a lead pastor. And then, I mean, that world, very similar to real estate, just has a lot of like potential burnout traps in it essentially. And I hit one of those walls where my body and brain was like, yeah, you can't keep going at the pace that you were going at. We'd been through some years of challenge and then some years of significant growth. And so I ended up transitioning out of that, at least for a season. And there was an opportunity provided to me to potentially get into real estate. I thought, why not jump out like one of the most stressful occupations into what is probably the most stressful occupation other than people that are dealing with like, I don't know, brain surgery, police officers in the SWAT team. Like real estate is not quite there, but it's around there.
Seems like a natural transition.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of my transition into it. It didn't work out, the original partnership that I was offered. So I ended up building a spreadsheet, which is what I tend to do, of 6 different locations that I showed my wife. I was like, these are 6 locations. These are our values. Which one wins? And then we ended up moving back to Langley because we tried to move to the island and started in real estate from there.
Cool. Do you want to go ahead too?
Sure. So I graduated kindergarten and then got into real estate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that explains your trajectory.
Yeah, I'm not very good at anything really, but real estate's all I've ever done. So I graduated high school. I wasn't a very good high school student, but happened to land in the BCIT commercial real estate program, which at the time was quite a high level of individual that would attend, and I wasn't that yet, obviously. So most of the people I went to school with had degrees already. They were mature students. There was 2 of us that graduated from that program that were straight out of high school. So I kind of got launched into a very mature world when I was not very mature. So I had to grow up really fast. And that program was like 8 courses a semester, and there wasn't really much messing around to be had. And then I was licensed just shy of my 20th birthday. I didn't have family in real estate. I just got into it, loved it. I just loved the idea of eating what you kill. Like that was really intriguing to me, that if you work hard and you do the right things, there is a very, very high ceiling. I had realized that it was as stressful and as crazy as it was, and that was partly immaturity, which worked out. And then just worked hard, tried to do the right things early in my career, and I was very, very fortunate. I got some very lucky bounces, sort of the combination of effort and luck. Bought into the brokerage when I was 24. And then we've sort of just steadily grown, and at all times through the ownership journey, I was selling real estate as well. And that continues today with David and my brother Corey. All 3 of us are active salespeople. We're active realtors as well as owning the brokerage, which affords us some insight into our customer, which is slightly rare. Yeah.
Okay. It's just right. It's funny you mentioned that you didn't have family in the industry, but it sounds like you dragged family.
Yeah.
That thing's it.
Yeah. And it works well. I literally 5 minutes before we started this, I was ripping on my brother in front of people.
And he gave it right back.
Yeah. So it's nice. It worked out really well. Corey and I are very, very different people. But we have the same values. So our team will often joke, like we had a team meeting this morning, Corey and I were kind of given it back and forth to each other like brothers will. But we've got a really good relationship and a partnership that has just proven so well. I'm never worried about what he's going to do next. You know, you sort of know I have 38 years of experience with my brother. I can guess what he's going to do, and whether it pisses me off or not is a question, but yeah, it's worked well in that sense.
You
Yeah.
mentioned also that you bought in at 24, age
Mhm.
24. Was that when it started feeling like real estate was more of a business than a job, or did it happen later?
Yeah. Good question. Cool. So the education that I came into real estate with was a little bit more business focused than real estate focused. So my program head at BCIT is still my business coach to this day, and coaches, I don't know, probably 12 to 15 of our realtors in this brokerage. He instilled in me at whatever, 17, 18 years old when I met him, like real estate is a business, and there's all kinds of different businesses, but at the end of the day, the principles are generally the same. And especially in most service-based businesses. So when I started at a very young age, I just had that programmed early that you need a bit of a plan, and you need to pay attention to your financials. And it doesn't matter how much money you make, it matters how much money you keep. And I was very, very fortunate to have that at a very early stage of my career. And then as you progress, or I've learned as I've progressed through my career, the problem of business just gets a little bit more complex, but the principles are generally the same.
Different problems is what you're saying.
Yeah. And at the root of those problems, like you can distill them down into a few very simple concepts that just the problems generally get a little bit more complex. The numbers get bigger, there's more people. Sometimes the weight of the problem can be slightly more significant than it was when I was just a little agent doing 10 deals a year kind of thing. Yeah.
At what point did real estate stop feeling like a job and start feeling more like a business for you?
I can speak to that one directly. Having entered the industry like just less than 10 years ago now, I think I'm in my 9th or 10th year. Jamie talked about like real estate having a ceiling. It also has a floor. And I lived on the floor for like the first 6 months, basically, where there wasn't a transaction. Like I didn't have a transaction. I didn't have like a sphere of influence or whatever. And I had to build everything from scratch. And when I got into it, because I was transitioning out of a career and I already had a family, like 2 young kids, a wife that was home with those kids, it was kind of like, you have to make this work. So I went all in and then spent a fair bit of money to do so. Like, I think by the end of my first year, I was 72 grand in the hole. And to someone coming out of employment, where like, that was like my annual salary. To be 72 grand in the hole, I realized immediately, this isn't a job. I wake up every single morning completely unemployed, and I have to work out what I'm going to do today to try to get a paycheck. So it was a business from day one. Yeah, for me anyway.
Yeah. That's very cool. That story's crazy. I don't think I've ever told this on here, but I was licensed for a little bit. I was working in another industry at the time, and when I decided to do this full time, I gave my notice at my employer, and my last day, I was in group fitness coaching before. I was saying bye to everybody. I go home and I found out I was going to be a dad.
Oh, no way.
Oh yeah.
I rolled over. So this is so good. I can't believe you have a similar story. I was 29 when I got my real estate license. I rolled over the morning after my 30th birthday, and Amanda says to me, "I've known for 2 weeks, but we're pregnant again." And that was Abel, our third born. And I got in the car. This was December 29th. I got in the car and screamed at myself while driving to the office, "You have to make this work. You have to make this work." And then for another 3 months after that, into that kind of 6-month period of having absolutely zero transactions, I was with another brokerage at the time, who will be nameless. After the 6 months, and kind of screaming at myself, "You have to make this work," spending all the money, spending all the time. The next 8 months had 25 transactions in it. So it went from like nothing to something, and it kind of went from there. But I had that experience of like, the pressure is now on.
Yeah, you got to do this.
So screaming at yourself in a car.
That's the secret. That's the secret.
I could do 25 deals. Okay.
It's the same car I slept in the night before I interviewed here.
That's incredible. Crazy. I didn't know that, Austin, about you. That's wild.
Yeah.
It was the day of too. Pressure.
Yeah, literally. I was saying bye to everybody, and my wife's like, "You need to come home." And I kind of, so I walk in, she's like, not saying anything. I'm like, sir, are you pregnant or what? She's like, yes, I'm like, damn it. Yikes. Best thing that ever happened. I know I just said, damn it, but like, you kind of said, like,
Yeah.
adults, you're adulting now. Like it's not just, hey, you want to do this and you need some time to figure it out, but like you need.
And you have a business. It's not a job.
Yeah.
There's a difference between wanting to be successful and having to feed a child.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
So a little bit of stress. We made it though.
You did. Well done.
Thank you. Talk a little bit as well. So you guys have both talked about how getting into not just, doing the real estate thing, but talk about brokerage ownership and what made you, like you said, at 24, like that's, in my opinion, very young to not just like start a business of real estate, but also get into the business of owning a brokerage. Like what was that transition? What was the ultimate why behind that transition or that additional step to take on?
Yeah. So yeah, at the time there were our broker owner who was a mentor of mine. He approached 4 of us who were agents that did a bit of volume in the brokerage at the time. So my 3 partners at the time were all in their mid 40s, great people, since gone our separate ways and we've acquired their interest over the years. We didn't know any better. And again, it makes sense of theme here of I was too dumb to know some of the decisions I was making would actually pan out. And this was one of them. So our broker owner approached the 4 of us, took us out for breakfast and said, I'm selling the brokerage this year. You guys get first opportunity. Here's the price. It closes on this date. If you don't want it, I get it. I'm going to sell it to one of your competitors. So he got up and left after breakfast. The 4 of us sat there and like, I guess we're buying a brokerage. Like we don't want to, like we wanted that sort of control and we didn't really have this grand idea at the time. And then the evolution of where the brokerage has gone and we've since bought out partners and I brought David and Corey in a few years ago. It's been so much fun in the context of building something bigger and trying to help people that are in the industry you're in. And that was the approach that we started with and that we've attempted to continue is we're our customer too. And we talk about this internally a lot. Like what do we need as agents and what do our agents tell us they need? Let's come up with the ideas and then figure out how to monetize it, like how to make sense of it as a brokerage. And ultimately the brokerage exists to make money. And I think we've sort of threaded that needle really well of how do we deliver a high value of service and also make it make sense from a profitability point of view.
As an outsider coming in though,
Yeah.
we tend to lead with the idea.
Yeah.
Then we work out how does this work financially,
Totally. And
which I think is the right way to do it.
yeah. Cause this is sort of, like as a realtor, as a mortgage broker, the commission breath conversation. Like we often talk about that in our industry. You go down and sit with Mr. and Mrs. Seller. And if you're asking them questions and answering their questions in a way that you're trying to solve a problem for them and help them, they feel that. Like you just feel that. And that's in every industry, especially sales-based industries. It's the same in the brokerage world. Like if we approach an idea, to David's point, and say, like, how can we make money off these realtors? Like you guys would feel it. Like you absolutely would. And there are operations that kind of function that way out of necessity more than anything. But we've had the ability over the years, and this comes with time and scale and ability to weather market storms and the volatility that comes in the real estate market. But we've been able to take that approach of how do we offer value first, and then how do we extract and make this a profitable business?
I think if you can replace the word sales with service and make the offer or make what you're doing so good that people feel dumb saying no, like that's basically solving business problems, right? Like you kind of said, what are the challenges that realtors face? Because coming from a realtor team, you guys are, in the trenches dealing with all the same stuff, and uniquely you're experiencing all those pain points for agents. And it's like, how can we build a business plan around all of those pain points? Because if we're feeling them, other people are feeling them.
Wow. Yeah. Great way to word it. Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. Well, for me on the brokerage side of things, I think it was about proximity to Jamie and Corey and looking forward to building something together. And then also exiting from a scenario where I had essentially like a few hundred people that I was charged with caring for. That's always been like an orientation of mine. Like I like caring for people. It's like one of the core components of my just my personhood. And to have the agents, the opportunity to care for the agents was a big thing for me. Yeah.
Was ownership something you'd ever thought of
No.
before?
No. But like the interesting thing, you asked me probably about 4 years ago, maybe even longer. You were like, if money wasn't an option, what would you do? And I was like, I'd be like the camp grandpa for our realtors, where like when they're homesick, they come and sit on my lap and are like, I didn't get a deal done and I need to get a deal done because my mortgage needs paid. Like I'd like to be that guy. And those are a lot of the conversations that I have. And I consider that like one of the most rewarding things I get to do. Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, when you talk about how you started at one brokerage and then obviously have expanded to more, as well as I think you can chat a little bit about how even this office has expanded over time. What changes, I guess, personally as well as logistically, when you go from 100 agents to, you know, I think right now as an office we're sitting at around 300 between the multiple offices. So, you know, operationally and personally, like what changes with that?
Yeah, a lot. The problems get slightly more complex because you're dealing with a lot more people and a lot more personalities. With the increase in number of agents, we've had to increase the number of staff as well. And it's just more people. Generally, you're going to have more concerns and more things that you need to address while you're executing your plan of action. The growth was not overly intentional, and it sounds sort of funny to say this out loud, but we very much did approach this brokerage with a delivery of value and solving people's problems and adding a level of service. So when we bought initially, we had 87 agents, and there wasn't this like on the wall, we're going to get to 300 or 500 or any number. It was deliver good value. And ideally the brokerage will do well as a result. And again, when I did this initially, like I didn't know what that meant. And that delivery of value, our agents have been our recruiters over the years. Like good agents are attracted to other good agents, and good agents are generally going towards a high level of service and a high level of value. And that's translated into that growth.
Yeah, we've certainly not really been an active recruitment model at all. If anything, you know, we're doing a little bit more active recruitment in this season, and we're being dragged kicking and screaming into it.
Yeah.
Like I remember starting a conversation with you like, hey, and this was months and months and months ago, probably like midsummer. And we were looking at Chilliwack in particular when we acquired that office. And we came up with a plan to kind of get a little bit more active in our recruitment out there. And that's kind of the first lever that we've pulled on that. And like, we're learning from that because that's a new thing for us. It's not something that we've done historically.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had this discussion quite a bit recently. There's, in my opinion, there's two ways to get business. One is very loud and one is very quiet. We've always been the quiet one, and we've just delivered value and done it. I'd say from a place almost of humility, and our agents reflect that. Like, a lot of our agents follow that sort of business model. Like they do really, really good work for their clients. Their clients tell their friends, they do more business. And that's been the personality of the brokerage. So not that we're veering away from that, but we've had some conversations around, like, as the marketplace gets louder and louder and louder, do we need to enter with a different voice? And I'd say that, again, business is business. I think realtors are struggling. Some realtors I know are struggling with that as well. Like, do you just keep your head down and keep doing business with your clients, or do you poke up and try to grab attention in different ways? I don't know the right answer to that from a realtor's point of view or a broker's point of view.
I've tried to build David Smith Homes Group from like an advocacy standpoint. And one of the interpretations or translations of that has been, we're trying to turn our clients into our advocates so that we don't have to do it for ourselves, because it just looks it's not the way that we want to look. And I think that is one of the reasons why Jamie and Corey and I get on pretty well as well, because we're looking for our clients, and in this case, it's the agents, to do the advocacy on our behalf, not because we're asking them to, or certainly not because we're demanding them to, but because they've had a good experience themselves. And I think as realtors, we've learned that works in the residential and commercial world. And so we trust that it works in the brokerage world as well. Yeah.
No, that's good. So when you're taking on a new venture or maybe you're expanding the business, is there something that you would kind of recommend to somebody when they're in that position? Like maybe you're not speaking to us directly, but you're speaking to the audience when they're looking to expand or they're looking to take on a new venture, the things that you have learned that you could share as words of wisdom, maybe?
Yeah. Gosh, that's a loaded question.
No, so does it just happen?
I guess that work. And there's so many different sort of holes I could go down on this. One that I've learned is the why. And why will this be a good thing if it goes well? And why will this be a good thing if it doesn't go well?
Okay.
And I've had varying experiences with that. Like sometimes there's a, let's go do this and let's be very successful at it. But then you kind of like forecast that out a few years or a few months or whatever the time frame is on the venture that you're doing. And do I want to be that successful at it? Like, what does my life look like if I'm really successful at doing that? It's interesting actually on the real estate side with our team as an example. Like I sold residential real estate when I started, and I hit a moment in my career where I kind of projected out. I saw some agents in our marketplace that were doing 150, 200 deals a year, and I saw their lifestyles. And thankfully I was young, so I didn't have a mouth to feed at the time, or I didn't have my wife tell me she was pregnant and I have to show up to work the next day and do like everything the right way and very quickly. But I looked at some of their lives and they liked their lifestyle. It wasn't a lifestyle that I wanted. And so I kind of, that's when I brought my brother into the business. Actually, it was right around that time, because I felt the need to, both for our clients and for me personally, very selfishly, like working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. When I started in real estate almost 20 years ago, people were proud of that. Like, they're proud to say that out loud. And I'm so happy our industry has changed where like you don't whisper it like, hey, I'm taking Sunday off. Like, you don't have to whisper that anymore. It's almost celebrated to a degree. So I'd say like, if you're doing something new and whatever it is, what does success look like? Do you actually want to be that successful, and do you want to hit that target from both and understanding the reason why? Like when I started having a little bit of success, it was, and I'm not ashamed to say this out loud, it was so extrinsic. Like I wanted to be successful for other people. Like I wanted them to think I was successful, and at 22, 23 years old, there was different reasons. I was trying to impress girls at the bar more than anything. But now that's kind of flipped, and it is very intrinsic. So if I do an extra 10 deals a year, like there's a cost to do that. And I weigh those costs now. And that could go into any business venture. Yeah.
You want to elaborate on that? Or?
No, I mean, I don't think it was long-winded, but I also don't really feel the need to add too much more, other than it's consider the cost.
Yeah.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, and I think with that too, like obviously Dave, you do obviously your real estate team, obviously owner here, you do coaching as well. So how did you navigate kind of balancing those different things, and when did you feel confident that you're in a good spot to like take something else on?
It's a good question. I am driven to build things. Like if caring is like one of my core motivators, my other core motivator is creating. So like I just like building things by nature. And if I ever find myself with a little bit of additional time or resources or energy, even for a short period of time, the cogs begin to get spinning. Like, how can I improve this, or start something else, or find some leverage, or whatever it is? That's just kind of where my brain goes. How I balance it is like, anybody that's followed any of my journey at all knows how regimented I am around my systems and my structures and my calendar and my routines and everything else.
Elaborate on the car. I want people to hear about this because she's amazing.
Please don't. It gives me anxiety.
And the crazy thing is, so on the anxiety comment, for me, when I look at my calendar, it squashes my anxiety. Like, because I know that it's taken care of. And I know that I've got, like, the light blue is David Smith Homes Group. The orange is the brokerage. The yellow is it's a very small consultancy. Like, we have a handful of clients, and it doesn't take that much of my time, but it's something I really enjoy. I get off those phone calls and I walk up the stairs and Amanda looks at me. She was like, you were just doing a little bit of coaching, weren't you? And I'm like, yes, I was. And I'm like gliding. You know, so I have those 3 calendars, which are all work calendars. And then I have my family calendar and I have my personal calendar. And I wake up every single day already having scheduled for the week and knowing exactly what I have to do. And that makes me feel better, that nothing is going to spin violently out of control, at least in the mid to the long term. There are certainly weeks, there are certainly days where things spin violently out of control because things came up that I couldn't plan for. But for the most part, I'm able to handle the load because I've structured my life around it. The one area that is not compromised genuinely is family. Like, I had one of the hardest years of my life last year, and I went from spending, 41 hours a week with or on the family the year before, and I actually increased it to 42 hours with or on the family last year, whilst increasing revenue 29%, decreasing expenses, increasing transaction volume like 38%. So the thing that's most important to me is that they don't suffer for the fact that daddy is busy. And the only way I can do that is being as structured as I am, or I'll begin to fail in the things that matter the most. Jamie's talked a lot about like success. The biggest danger in our industry is succeeding in something that you don't actually ultimately value as success. You're just busy or rich, but you have kids that hate you and a wife that's going to divorce you. That's not the goal. That's not success.
Well, I think what's interesting with that too, as you guys are talking about expanding and doing more, some of it I think is also like delegating in teams and letting go. Like obviously
Efficiencies. Yeah.
you've talked about bringing Corey on, and then obviously you have a team as well. I say this sarcastically, but Jamie, you're probably not doing open houses much anymore.
I told him to put you on the spot. I was like, ask Jamie the last time he did an open house.
But you remember.
Yeah.
Obviously, the my commercial side and being a team lead, I'm sure if there's an emergency sickness, sometimes superhero cape has to go on. But
Yeah. Oh, it's got to be.
No, he rejects the cape, Austin. This is the boundary.
absolutely,
He's
yeah.
burned the cape.
Yeah, it's gone. The cape is absolutely off. Probably 10 or 11 years. Yeah. But even it's funny the open house thing, because David does take shots at me for that. And when last
It's
open,
not a shot. It's envy.
but that was like the question of delegation and the evolution of a realtor, or my real estate journey as a residential realtor. Like when I was doing open houses, I would do 2 a day on the weekends, and I was so methodical about how I did them. And when I started, I didn't have any listings, so I worked with a few of the agents in our office, and I would take their open houses, and they didn't want to do them. And it would be like, man, I would put in the hours on the weekends to do them, and the process was very, very intentional. And then I at some point got enough business that I couldn't do for a weekend, and I had to be out showing the buyers that I had picked up in the open houses and servicing the listings. And it was at that, there was a bit of a turning point then when I started to get too busy to do the open houses, that I realized how, like, I am not important. It's the system and the delivery of value that we give our clients that is the most important thing. And as long as we can be consistent in the delivery of value, I don't need to do the open house. But if somebody's doing an open house on one of our listings, the feeling that somebody gets walking through that door would be similar to if I was there, or better, obviously, because most of the people I work with are a lot better at my job than I am.
And not to get sucked into the open house conversation when you're actually asking about delegation, but like I started like Jamie, I was doing 4 open houses every single weekend, 50 weeks out of the 52 in my first 2-3 years in the industry. And I made, and I would say this, like, I know that you have an audience that is a realtor audience as well as like consumer facing, but I'll just throw a number out. Like I believe I've brought in at least $150,000 of revenue to my team through hosting open houses. Like for some people that's going to sound like a lot of money, and for other people that's not going to sound like particularly much. But for me, certainly in that season of my career and today, that's a lot of money. And it was just through the discipline of doing open houses. And like Jamie, I've transitioned primarily away from that now. But what I try to do, and Austin, you've hosted open houses for us, a number of our agents have hosted open houses for us. We try and equip them with like an open house cheat sheet. We make sure they have absolutely everything they need. And then I believe that they can do an even better job standing there than I can, because they can represent an unrepresented buyer that comes through and I can't. On the topic of delegation as a whole, like, I'm not taking shots at Jane when we're talking about the open house side of things. It is the opposite in that sense. I've said to you for years as well now, like I think one of your superpowers is finding the right people to delegate tasks to. And I think you're very good at it. I'm not as advanced in my career as Jamie is. And so I'm kind of transitioning into the delegation phase. And it is hard and it is scary and it's humbling. And, you know, we're trying to work out the systems and the structures to make sure that, you know, nothing slips through the cracks, and we're doing our best on it. But I think once you get to a certain transaction volume, you need to.
I think a lot of that also comes from, you know, like you had talked about, is like, where does, like, reflecting and seeing where your actual business comes from. Like if you're sitting at 4 open houses a week, and some people just have a knack for certain things, some sure don't. Some people are better at social media. Some people are better at cold calling. Some people are better at guerrilla marketing, but it's important to kind of reflect and value. It's like, okay, where is my business actually coming from? Because you should be tripling down on focusing on those areas that's actually going to be productive for you, as opposed to if you hate open houses and you're sitting in 4 of them a week, you're probably going to burn out from the job and not enjoy it.
Austin, can I lean in on that?
Yeah.
I love how you just said that. So there's a lot of different ways to get business in our industry. And is one of the mistakes I made early on was I would listen to people speak. I would bug some of our agents who were successful in our office and outside our office. And they would tell me, like, this is how you do it. Like, you have to go door knock, or you have to cold call, or you have to do this. And I would take all of that and load my brain full of it. And I hated door knocking because I didn't want somebody knocking on my door. I hated cold calling. I just it felt dirty to me.
Yeah.
So when I did it, I felt like I hate this business when I'm doing things like that. And then you kind of fall into this, like you start to gravitate a little bit as you have more years generally in the business towards the things you like a little bit more, which ultimately you're going to be better at.
Yeah.
And then the business just feels way more fun to do. Like, I don't cold call, I don't door knock because it's just not for me. But like, we do client events, and I go for a ton of coffees and beers and lunches with either clients or friends of our clients, and get sort of warm introductions like that. And man, it makes the business so much more enjoyable and easier to do the harder things, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I'd throw my hat in that ring as well. Like when I did enter the industry 9 years ago, which does feel like yesterday, I still remember it like it was yesterday. I literally never asked the question, what was anybody else doing? Like, it was, what would it look like for David Smith specifically to build a real estate team? And that was where the people over property always thing came out, property and community, like all that kind of thing. And then obviously you do some things that are reflective of what others in the industry are doing as well. But over time, I've pivoted back towards things that are uniquely David Smith. And like, maybe it's encouraging for some of the realtors in your audience, but like, I'm a big soccer guy. I've always been a big soccer guy. And in my 1-3-5 model that I do every single year to kind of plan for the year, in 2021, I said, I need to recover the uniqueness of David Smith Homes Group in the marketplace. And that means pressing into my own interests. It just so happened that it combined with a professional soccer team coming to the area. And we've just done a social media review with our team this morning. Our best performing content online is related to Vancouver Football Club. And it's not directly tied to real estate, but we also reviewed a form that we had sent out on our social media this morning. And one of the leads that we got in from that form that we distributed over the weekend was through Vancouver Football Club. Like, it's not open houses anymore for me. It's just pressing into my own interests. And so I would encourage any realtor to do the same, because as Jamie says, doing what you're enjoying, you're going to show up better. You're going to be warmer. People are going to be more attracted to you than if you just hate it. People can tell. It's the equivalent of commission breath.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting to kind of piggyback on that is, I think, Jamie, you going out of high school to the BCIT program, I would say you're probably in the exception of how people get into this industry.
Yeah.
So many people come from different businesses or different previous careers or different experiences. And a lot of times I feel like you take some of that experience that you have from your past job and then apply it to your, new business or your career. And
well, I see that in the way that you've built your business, because you're a former personal trainer, and you know that like these are the inputs, these are the outputs. Like it's a very clear connection. And I think you from that background have implemented that into your real estate business.
Yeah, totally.
It's apparent.
Well, I appreciate that. Give me a little compliment. Yeah, just juice the nail.
I'm going to throw the next one out here. Yeah, we talked about, actually, David, you spoke about boundaries a little bit, specifically with your family and Sherman. It sounds to me like you're very calculated with your time. I'd actually, off there, I'd love to talk to you, Adam, when I hear you track things. I think that's very interesting, but I don't think it's going to blow you. Don't leave you have enough time to figure it out. So I'm actually going to throw this to you, Jamie, because you talked about boundaries a little bit. Yeah, I'm curious how you set some boundaries. I understand that you're married. I'm not sure if you have children. Yes. Yeah. How do you time manage and set some boundaries? And what's some advice you might have for some people that?
Yeah. So I can answer this question differently today than I could have 10 years ago. So I'll answer it today and 10 years ago. So today on the commercial side of the business, it's easier. It just is. The time constraints are, it's a hard business, but it's 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. If I get a phone call on the weekend from a commercial client, like they're calling me because they're bored, but it's not I need to talk to you today sort of thing. So it's much easier, especially to have a young family. I've got 2 little girls. It's much easier on the commercial side today. So I don't want to answer the question from today's point of view because it is a bit of a privileged position in the industry that I'm in, or the area of the industry I'm in. But when I was selling homes, as an example, there's just, it's hard to carve out on a daily basis time away. But one of the things I preach with our agents is give your phone to somebody else every once in a while. I don't care what your frequency is. Some people need 6 months of vacation every year. Some people need 6 days. It varies. Everyone's unique. Our sales meeting last week or the week before last, I right after Christmas, I said to the agents, who actually turned their phone off over the last 2 weeks? And I don't think I saw a hand go up. And then I said, who's tired from the holidays? And everybody's hands go up. And that's just such a great example of our industry, that we get burned out, not necessarily because we're working in the business all of the time, but the business is kind of here and it's in your brain, and you think you're taking a Sunday off, but in the back of your head, like, maybe there might be an offer that comes in on my listing, or I got to talk to them about a price reduction tomorrow. Like, you're always thinking about it, and that's where the burnout comes. David does a good job of keeping track of everything. Like, metrics are good so that you know when you're off the rails a little bit. Again, this a bit of a place of privilege on this, where I have really, really enjoyed the last year or two within our business. Like, I work a lot of hours. I've started integrating my 5-year-old into some of the stuff I do, which is kind of cool. Like, as I'm speaking right now, you can hear a bit of a chiller just cranked up. I hope the mics don't pick it up. There's a vending machine right behind us that my 5-year-old owns. So she has 2 locations and makes more money than me some days. But I've kind of integrated her into our lives a bit. So she bumps around the office every once. She's in kindergarten now, but we're in the hockey world too. So she spends a lot of time at the hockey rink. We have a brewery downstairs, and so she comes.
She drinks like a fish.
But she'll work at the brewery, like, with our staff. Love her down there, and they'll throw her a cloth, and she'll go wipe tables down, and like, she'll walk juice boxes over to kids, and we're dog friendly, so she'll bring treats to dogs. So there's a lot of stuff that I can get done. Like, if I have to be at the hockey rink for work related to the hockey teams, I'll sometimes bring her, and she'll sit in meetings with me, and it has been just the most rewarding thing for me as a father. So not that you can bring a kid to showings or a contract negotiation, but I think there are some work activities that you can start to integrate a little bit more in your life if you're intentional about it.
I agree.
Kids don't want to be distracted; they want to be included.
It's that Mother Teresa.
I heard from someone.
Let's attribute it to Mother Teresa
or Austin Catalano. I like that. That is like a quote or a variation of that quote, and I often think about that. That, like, I don't want to do what I'm doing and push the kids aside, and then we come back together at 6:00 at night for an hour before they go to bed. Like, my wife and I, we try to integrate them in as much as we can. When, like, I travel a little bit, like conferences and stuff for work, like, I brought the kids with me. We brought grandma's with us, and like we grab an extra hotel room and bring the kids so that I'm not away from the family for 3 or 4 nights. There's ways to do it. It's hard, obviously, but there's ways to do little things throughout the day to balance that out.
I agree. And I will jump in on this, even though you directed it to James, part of the Care and Clo motivator, because again, I know your audience has a lot of realtors in it. There's a couple of things I would add to that. One is communication up front with, your spouse, your partner, and even your children, like once they get to a certain age. As I was exiting the Christmas holidays this year, I knew what I was heading into in 2026 as well, and what the spring was going to look like for us. And I knew that was going to translate some weeks to dads around less than they have got used to over the holidays. And that transition, like now my kids are like 8, 10, and 13. So they're actually able to process a lot of these things. I shared it at the dinner table the night before they went back to school, the night before I went back to work. And it was a very like honest, open conversation with them. And my littlest guy, Abel, looked at me and he was like, and this sounds like it's made up, one of those things that parents say that their kids said, and you're like, they didn't really say that. I promise you, he said it to me. He said, Daddy, it's okay because we know why you work. You work because you love us. And that was it. Like, and it was the most obvious thing in the world to him. And it was such a mercy to me because I was like, oh, all that effort of trying to communicate with you over all these years that my labor is actually an expression of my love for you. It's getting through, because to him, it was the most apparent thing in the world. So like good communication with your family. We pride ourselves on our communication with our clients. If we apply, even 80% of what we apply to our clients as we do to our own family, like it would really, really help. And then I think the other thing is like the biggest difference between like, 10 years ago, 20 years ago in the industry, it was seen as like a badge of honor that you were working all the time. People were saying they were working all the time, but they didn't have these to the same extent that they had back then. Now, when we say we're working all the time, and if we're tethered to this like freaking little anxiety rectangle, you really are working and accessible all the time. And so if you don't practice what like I'll call with my family technology hygiene, like some practices, like getting this in like a kitchen lockbox I have at home, where like there's certain times a day where it just goes in the lockbox and my clients can't reach me during that time frame, but that's okay. We have WhatsApp chats set up with the team, and there's going to be someone to speak to them. I'm using like on the software side of things, because obviously that's like a physical barrier. On the software side of things, I'm just using different focus settings in iOS, where I have like a personal family focus setting and a working focus setting, and it completely resets what notifications I get, what apps are readily available to me. And using that has stopped me from like the habitual check the email to make sure there's no grenades waiting to go off in there. Like that, social media is not in the personal or family time focus section. So I think like implementing technology hygiene and asking the question, am I in control of my technology, or is my technology in control of me, regularly, and submitting it to the people in our lives that we are actually trying to care for their opinion on that as well, is essential. Or you'll do real damage.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about market shift, as well as maybe agent mistakes, and I'd almost put survival in this, because we've come out of 2 pretty challenging years, to say the least, in the market. How has leadership for you guys at the brokerage level, I guess, changed over the last 2 years with the more challenging market? So talk a little bit about maybe balancing the highs with the highs of, a couple of years back, 2021, 2020, even into some of 2022, and then also these last couple of years that we've experienced.
Or take that.
Because I'm on the resi side a little more.
Yeah. JD's like, commercial?
And you generally have more empathy than me too.
I think so. The empathy is an accurate thing to land on there, because I do genuinely feel for our agents right now, because I'm also experiencing the same thing. The biggest challenge for agents right now is the workload has legitimately multiplied, I think, about 4x. Like, I had another deal collapse this morning. It is the second deal that we've had collapse on this property. And we have now listed this property 3 or 4 times. So that's 3 or 4 times that you're going through the listing process, 3 or 4 times you're processing the social media, 3 or 4 times you're hosting the first opening weekend open house again. It's just repetition. If a property is on the market for 3 months rather than 3 days, then you're probably doing a monthly market update for them. And if you're doing your market analysis the way that we do our market analysis, that can take 30 minutes to an hour, however long. And then you're walking that through with the client and explaining the different statistics and how your property compares to that property. And like, it is actually down to the hours that have increased. And so in my own 135 for our own business this year, one of our strategies under one of our priorities to help us achieve that one main goal is that listings sell and buyers buy. And we are so intentional about that right now. And I think what that translates to at the brokerage level is we're trying to support our agents with training where their listings will actually sell. They're getting the pricing right, because the price is the difference maker in the current market. So really pressing them, like, don't be afraid to lose a listing if it's going to be an overpriced listing that's just going to cost you money and time that you cannot afford right now. And for buyers, both those deals that have collapsed on that listing that collapsed again today were because realtors hadn't properly got their clients pre-approved. Like, just encouraging our agents to take the steps so that listings sell and buyers buy. That would be one of the main ways that I think we've pivoted. There's no luxury anymore of taking on a client that might do something. It doesn't work. We don't have the time.
I had the benefit of starting in 2008.
Oh, benefit.
Yeah. So actually,
That's sarcasm. Just saying.
no, you know, so hard times suck when you're in a hard time, really valuable after the fact. So yeah, 2008 was my first full year. I was licensed in 2007. 2008 was my first full year. Again, a bit of ignorance. Like, I didn't know any different. Like, this is just a normal market.
Yeah.
And at the time, so there's we had a few older guys in our office that started in like 1981, 82. And if you've heard some of the stories about that marketplace, it was a lot worse than 2008. And I kind of feel like the old guy now in this context of like,
You're crotchety like him too.
yeah, right. Yeah. Like back in my day in 2008, like it kind of feels similar to that marketplace. I think it's in almost a 20-year window. I haven't seen a full market cycle. And most of the realtors, like the average agent, has probably been in the business 5 years, probably is our average agent. Like, that's not a market cycle. If you started in a market where, and I totally get the context of working with buyers 5 years ago, very, very hard.
Yeah.
Working with listings, very, very easy for the most part, right? So there's a lot of agents that have worked through these markets in the last 5 years, and it's very different than a normal real estate market. Like, the last 5 years was not a normal real estate market. Like, talk to your colleagues in Winnipeg or in like Ohio. Markets don't appreciate by 30%, and a for sale sign doesn't go up with 20 offers behind it in a normal market. But if you've started in the last 5 years, that's all you know. That's all that's normal to you. So,
And that's what your systems were built around.
Yeah.
That's how you structured your week and your month and your year.
bang on. So when you get punched in the face by having to relist the same house 4 times, it feels very foreign, and it just hurts to go through that. But if you have been through a market like that, you kind of know what's around the corner. Like, to David's point, if we overprice, we're not going to sell. I know that. I'm going to tell you that. This is the advice. I'm confident in it. What's best for you is to not overprice. But if you hadn't worked a market where that mattered, you go in there and like, yeah, let's take a shot. Because I mean, in the back of your brain, houses always sell, right? They don't. It's a hard market to work through right now. It's hard on a daily basis. It's very hard because being told no and being rejected and having to do all of this work and not get paid is just so difficult. And I hope, and I think this is where realtors need to help realtors in the community. Communicate, like, be a good partner to the other side of a transaction.
Yeah.
If the negotiation's going sideways, figure out a way to keep it together. If your buyers are getting cold feet because there's a newspaper article that the market's going to crash this year and they're not going to remove, like, tell the other agent that, get away from that transaction as fast as possible. Like, there's a lot of things we can do to help each other, both on like the opposing side when you're negotiating with another agent or working with another agent on a transaction, and then just communicating with, especially agents within brokerages, to help each other navigate what is a very demoralizing market.
I mean, I feel like today is such a good example of this, of exactly what you're talking about. So I am currently working on an offer with one of our own buyer's agents, or one of our own listing agents. It's their listing. We have the purchasers. We've been working on a tenancy situation together now for weeks, and there's offers that have been submitted that have expired because we can't sort out this tenancy situation. The degree to which we are collaborating to find a win-win-win for everybody, rather than it being a competitive zero-sum game, goes such a long way. And then further to your point, the deal that collapsed this morning, I immediately got back on the phone with an agent that called me just before we got the second offer accepted. And he said, hey, I know that your first deal collapsed. I had consent from the seller to give him the number. He's like, my guy's not there. He's at this number. If your second deal doesn't work out, I would love it if you would give us another chance. Immediately this morning, I called him. He said, we were going to write on something else. I'm going to bring this back to your guy. The fact that the conversation started so well with him, where it was collaborative, he was cards on the table. He wasn't going to send me a low ball and just try and like grind us on it. He was working with me from the outset. So when I'm talking to my client this morning on the phone, as I have been, I'm like, I actually trust that this guy has his client pre-approved because he knew where his max was. Whereas the first two that we had accepted, we were getting them up and they were never going to be able to do it in the first place. So collaboration is really key in the current market.
Yeah, I think to reframe what you guys are saying with it being quote unquote like tough market, like if you just assumed that every year in real estate was like last year and was like what we think maybe this year will be, you'd probably conduct yourself differently. It's like, oh, this is just the expectation, as opposed to, like we referenced, just get your sign in the ground and, you'll be there a week later with full stickers. That was the exception. It was an anomaly. Yeah, that'd be an anomaly. We're probably not going to see that again. But if you can kind of reframe how you look at everything, that's going to help people be more successful.
Well, I'm excited if our sales ratio does begin to recover here. The systems that we've implemented now to handle low sales ratios in that environment, it's going to be incredible. I'm excited about that.
So I think piggybacking off of that, like what type of agent do you think will be the most successful or thrive in the next 3 to 5 years? We're not going to hold it.
I have a very strong opinion on this. And this is just based on my experience seeing different markets and different agents, that like I've seen flashes of great success with agents and then they fizzle out. And I've seen the ones that sort of steadily gain, and then they build a business and a lifestyle around the volume that they do, and they sustain it. Those are the ones I admire that a lot more than someone that goes from 10 deals to 100 and then back down to 10. And like, it's just not a sustainable methodology or lifestyle to live. The agents that sort of slowly build, and then they find the stratosphere they want to live in that makes sense for them financially, lifestyle wise, professionally, they do all the little things well, and they do them very consistently. So, and as mundane, as small as this sounds, like Austin, you're really good at this. I see you in the office every day around the same time, every single day. Whether it's busy, you're doing a ton of business, or you've had the roughest week of your life and nobody's called you and nobody's answering the phone, you still show up. Showing up is I'd say the most underrated skill in anything. Just show up, figure it out after you show up. Generally that layering, and like, let's relate it back to like physical fitness. Most people can understand. Getting to the gym is the hardest part. Putting on your shoes is the hardest part. And then go to the gym. And as long as you're doing, like, you have the inputs correct, the output will eventually come. And for some people, it'll come in 3 months, and some 3 years. For some, it'll be 10 years before. But doing those small inputs on a consistent basis, and again, everyone's inputs are going to be a little bit different, but the process is exactly the same. It will work out. It will work out sometimes. And I understand that's an easy thing to say out loud. It's a hard thing to practice. The challenge and with our industry as a whole is, and I've seen this over and over and over again, is agents get in and they think that they'll turn this around very quickly. Like, I'm going to farm a market, so I'll spend 10 grand on that this year. And they do it for a year and there's no result. So they stop doing it. There's no consistency with it. And human nature, like we want, especially David mentioned what did you call it? The rectangle of
Yeah, the anxiety rectangle.
anxiety rectangle. We expect everything to be fast and quick and fast and quick and fast and quick. The agent that will be successful today and in 20 years from now, regardless of what our industry looks like, will be the one that is patient and consistent.
I think, in spite of all the things we've talked about on technology hygiene, during what other people would consider your work hours, unless you've set another expectation with those clients, you should be available. Like, we've been going through a process where we've been talking to our agents to invite them to our upcoming gala. We're always trying to celebrate our agents. And we've been making these personal phone calls. And I realized, because it just so happened that the way that the lists that we kind of built to make these phone calls went from like highest award level to, the entry level award level. The people most likely to pick up the phone were the ones with the highest award status. And it happened again this morning. I was making some calls.
Yeah.
And I made 5 phone calls to people that were diamond or up. In fact, they were all red diamond or up. It was between 9 and 9:30 on a Monday. So I'm not calling them like out of hours when they are practicing, hopefully reasonable boundaries with their technology. But like 9 to 9:30 on a Monday, if you're a top performing professional, you should be available. Every single one of those 5 agents that I called picked up this morning. And it was the same when I was making calls on another list. Like, that was noticeable to me. So when you're expected to be available, be available.
They see a call for ownership, like, oh no. I said this like, what do I do? Say that's sarcastically. It's just what's the one? Yeah, keep on, yeah.
So if an agent is feeling stuck right now, or they're unsure of what to do next, what advice did you give? You guys talked about consistency being like one, but what if I don't even know where to start? Like, how do I start getting into that realm of being consistent?
So I'll plug one of our agents. So Danny Evans, who has been around for 45 years. He's been licensed. I was talking to him on the weekend, and I loved how he worded this. He said, the cost of success is a cup of coffee. And what he means by that is, ask the people, like, if you look at someone's business and you say, I want a business like that, ask them, how do you do that? Yeah. Right. And I understand, again, saying this out loud, it sounds incredibly simple, and I'm sort of dumbing it down for myself in a way, but that was something that I've seen that with a lot of successful agents in our marketplace, that they'd look at somebody and say, I want to be like that person. So they'd ask them, like, and it sounds so simple. I did that when I started. Like, I took all of our top agents out for coffee, and I had the but I was in the office every day, and I would literally watch what they did. I would sit and watch what they did. And those experiences of seeing what you deem successful people do, is so replicable, maybe. David's my dictionary also. If I say a word out loud, repeatable, I say
thesaurus, but yes.
Shit.
Don't come to me for spelling, then we're in trouble.
Thesaurus. It's repeatable. So if an agent is stuck, the worst thing we could do in this industry is kind of silo ourselves and stay at home and try to figure it out on our own. It's already a lonely business. Our industry can be very welcoming and collaborative, but you have to take that action for it to be welcoming and collaborative for you. Like, if there's ever any newer agents in our office that are stuck and looking for help, I don't know that we have one realtor in our office that would say no to them. Take them out for lunch, take them out for a coffee. And as simple as that sounds, like, there's something you will learn from that. And at the very least, being around people that are motivated and doing things and are taking those steps every day, can be very motivating for somebody that is stuck. Again, the gym reference, like, one of the biggest hurdles I personally have experienced, and I see in people around me, is, how do I get in shape? Like, you don't sit in front of your computer and Google the best way to get in shape and do all the research.
That's what I've been doing wrong.
But it's kind of the same in real estate. Like, just put on your shoes, go to the gym, do something wrong for a few weeks, but you'll create some consistency, and then you'll learn as you're going. You need that momentum to create momentum. And the first step is show up to wherever you think you can find some mentorship in the physical fitness world. Show up to a gym, you'll find it. If you're in the real estate world, show up to the office, or if there's a coffee shop that, you know, a few realtors hang out in that you admire their business, show up there, ask questions, hang around with them, and learn by proximity.
Osmosis.
Thank you, thesaurus.
I've heard a saying that like motivation comes from taking action.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have it the other way around, right? And I think that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Sometimes you wait for the motivation to do something, but ultimately, if you do it, eventually that motivation will keep going.
Totally. There's an extension of that, and this is Scott Galloway. So Prof G.
You introduced me to him. I appreciate that.
He's great. So one of the things he says is, if anyone tells you to find your passion and you'll be rich, they're already rich. So most of those people that say that started in like the oil business or textiles, and now they own a soccer team. Like, don't listen to those guys. And his messaging in this is, you will find reward in challenge and execution. So in real estate, like if you're stuck, you're in the business for a day or 10 years and you're stuck, wherever you are in that window. Finding passion and reward in this business will come from action and doing and getting punched in the face and then showing up the next day and getting punched in the face again and showing up the next day. And then what do you know? You sold a house. Like, it'll happen eventually, and you will find reward and you will find passion for this industry in the challenges and in that momentum.
I agree. I think the one thing I would say that would kind of add a degree of refinement to that would be, do try and find out, at least try to work out what the right action for you to do is. Like, I don't think what Jamie is recommending here is random action.
No.
I think that's inefficient, and I know that that's not what you're recommending. But like, taking the moment to stop and think, what are the best actions that I could take right now? Because the solution for you is not necessarily the same solution for another person. Like, we were talking about it earlier, like, real estate does not need to be a one size fits all. Like, if you make the cold calls, if you do the bus benches, if you flyer a neighborhood, blah, blah, it's going to work for you. I would say to an agent that's finding themselves stuck right now to stop for a freaking moment, please, and ask, where actually am I? And where do I need to get to? And then begin building a plan. Because the replication of doing what has worked for other people isn't necessarily going to get you to where you specifically need to get to.
Do you know what's so funny about, like, I find this so ironic, the two pieces of advice we just got. I said, go, and don't think about going, just go.
But this is why we went.
And you said, stop and think about it before you go, which is two agents who have a level of success. And we both just gave two pieces of very different advice.
But this is our dynamic, which I think is good for the brokerage.
For sure.
You know, even like literally in the last 24 hours, I spend a ton of time thinking.
Yeah.
Stop, do not act, think for a little bit. And then you're acting.
Yeah.
But that's how we refine one another.
Yeah.
Like, and I think you need both. So that's why I'm saying it's a refinement. It's not a replacement. Like, if you're taking action, just make sure you're doing your best to take the right actions that are going to have the highest chance of you succeeding in them.
Yeah. Well, and even I think morphing those together, what I think of is, especially if you're newer or if you're trying to figure out, you kind of have to do everything and see what you're good at.
Yeah.
And then after that, what David's saying is like, okay, take a second, evaluate what you've done,
Yeah.
and then focus on what seems to be working for you.
Yeah. Because the assumption, like in our industry, often the assumption is, I just need to make more money. Like, that is going to solve all the problems. I recently had a coaching meeting with one of our agents, and she had mentioned, I need to get to X number of dollars. And I'm like, tell me why you need to get to X number of dollars. And she was like, what do you mean? Like, my incentive there as a broker owner is to be like, yeah, you should get to X number of dollars. That's more transactions. That's more money in our pocket. Like, blah, blah. But I was like, let's take a second, think about why you need to get to X number of dollars on revenue. And the answer, like you said earlier, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. And there was a leaky door on the expense side of that equation that needed to be shut. The answer wasn't necessarily more income, because more income is requiring more time, and then you're going to succeed in what you don't actually deem to be successful. So it's definitely a combination of both.
Well, money only solves your money problems, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Then it creates others.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Exactly. Anything else you want to?
Any closing thoughts? Anything else that you guys want to share or even ask us about? Open it up. You guys did the interviewee.
Well, I mean, we didn't set this up. You didn't tell us we'd have open, so this is going to look suspect. Okay. Confession, everybody. Yeah. But I would be interested, like, in your experience at the brokerage. Like, what are the things that matter most to you? Like, how can we support you in this season of your career?
Ooh, get compliments. They're asking me what I want. Do this more often. No, all jokes aside, I got to make a sarcastic joke. I think that the biggest thing for here is the community. Like having, like just from being here, the amount of business that I've done in-house of like, oh yeah, this person's getting me into that listing or this helping you just know a little bit better. And this is no disrespect to other brokerages. There is a ton of amazing agents at other, in other locations and other places, but just having a confidence of like, hey, this person, and you know, as much as they're working for their client, they are going to do a good job for them, but also they're going to be great to work with.
Yeah.
I would say there's a very high level of service and expectation and just of being a human at our office, which goes a long way. Community is great. Presence is great. Social activities that, you know, with the office, whether it's Power Summit, whether it's a Christmas party, the awards night, like there's always stuff going on. This business can be very lonely. We've talked about that. Everybody always jokes if it, obviously I share an office with someone, but if it's just me in there, oh, Austin's in there with the lights off working. You know, again, the business can be solo. So the camaraderie is great. The amount of people that just genuinely want to see you succeed. Obviously there's like office group chats now where we can get support and ask questions. You know, from running a business individually, that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah.
Managing broker, Peter's amazing. Every time you have a question, he picks up. You know, if he misses the call, he calls right back. And from running a real estate business perspective, that's kind of what you need.
Yeah.
That's all I really have to say.
That sounds so set up.
Yeah.
It wasn't. That's why I gave. That's why I gave.
Especially work there, but yeah, for that, yeah, well, it's whole frequent of our office.
I'd like to provide some insight. So I've been coming here, for a couple of years now? Yeah, 2 years. But yeah, we started recording a lot of our podcasts here. And the one thing I will say is you guys have always been very inviting. We've always been able to use the space as we need to, as we are right now. Everybody I see is always very friendly here. Like front desk, I've communicated with them multiple times.
Yes, they're great.
I always had a good relationship. Some of the other realtors I've connected with as well. And I've always felt welcome here as not somebody that works here, as an outsider. So I think you guys have established a really strong culture in terms of everybody seems to be here for the right reason. And yeah, I can't really say enough good things about what you guys have been able to build. I haven't been fortunate enough to go to any other offices, but I imagine they're very similar.
I appreciate that, man.
Well, that was what changed things for me, because like we talked earlier about like the first 6 months of 0 transactions. I then came over here and it was 25 transactions in the next 8 months. And the difference was that by being around the office and asking questions and doing exactly what Jamie's talking about, I learned, oh, that's how you do that. Like it completely transformed my business and therefore my life.
Yeah. Well, and I think with that too, you know, just speaking on like coming into the office, obviously I have a space here and I enjoy obviously coming in here, and some of it is, and there's nothing against people that work from home, but I find it very motivating to come in. It's like, David's here, you know, Leo down the hall, he's here. Yeah, Schreiders are in their office. Gary's across the hall. Like people are in here and working, and that's very, very motivating. And not that it's necessarily a competition of who can do the most business. Like that's not it. But it's like, yeah, these people are in here doing what they should be doing, and it's just a general reminder of like, hey, it's work. Like it's time to focus. It's, you know, time to get things done. So
Yeah, it's good.
So, yeah.
Thanks for having us on, guys.
Can I ask you guys a question? So I look through the podcasts and some of your guests that you've interviewed. So you've had mortgage professionals, you've had realtors. So question for both of you. What have you learned from the other side of the profession? Like, so Cole, directed to me, what have you learned from talking to realtors, hanging around with all these realtors, and Austin, what have you learned?
Do you want me to go first? Yeah, go for it. Sure. I've learned that my schedule's a lot better than yours. We don't talk about how I gigs at 4:30. How about getting out, answering phone calls on the weekend? I work at similar business hours because this typically happens in those hours, which is really nice. I mean, Austin and I have been working together now for 2 years. More than that, even. Yeah, no, like, I didn't even. Oh yeah. Oh, I feel like that sounds, yeah. Yeah.
I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about the sales process, the buying process, which helps me as a broker better understand what the client's going through and what that side of the business or that side of the transaction looks like. And it also helps me better prepare them for what they can expect. So I have to be careful. Obviously, I'm not the realtor. I can't give the advice on certain things, but the conversations that we have better equip me to, and in the podcast as well, better equip me to answer those questions for clients and better prepare them, like I said, for what they can expect and what might happen throughout. Because as we talked about, the market changes. It's not always going to be the same, but that's something I've really uplearned a lot about. I'm trying to think of any specifics from some of our guests, but we've had some pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think I would say 70% of our guests are realtor or mortgage broker
industry.
I also like, from what I've learned from the mortgage brokers, I think a lot of it is like legislation changes, and us talking about this stuff forces us to be up to date with everything that's going on. It's like, yeah, they came out with the new tenancy law again this week. Better learn it because that changed. I say that sarcastically again. David caught the humor. Yeah, so obviously some of the legislation changes. I've learned a lot about the mortgage process, which again, I obviously us being on the realtor side, we need to be careful of staying in our lane. It's not just, oh yeah, just send in your pay stubs and your documents and you'll get a pre-approval. No. It's like, what are your other expenses? Do you have a car loan? What's the difference between going to this lender or that lender? So that from the mortgage side has been great. But I also think of too some of the other guests that we've had on, like Adam, who's behind the scenes recording right now. He's been on to talk about just how social media in the real estate game, let's call it, is changing, how he's using tech and AI to service clients better, show houses better, whether that's mock-ups, virtual staging, turning those virtual stage images into video walkthroughs, and some of the AI with that, because I'm sure you guys have had listings before where they're vacant and you're like, well, I normally do a video, but let's scan around the empty rooms. That can look a little wonky sometimes, but now being able to virtually stage photos, turn those into different moving, basically videos, makes a huge difference. Also, one of our first guests that we had on was a buddy of mine, Brody Jackson, and he works in a concussion clinic. So just talking and very integrated with hockey. I wouldn't be surprised if you even add his company out to one of your teams, because they do like baseline testing for head injuries, and talking with some of the rehab process. That has been some of the best conversations we've had, where it's like, please explain this to me. Like, I just genuinely want to learn. This podcast, obviously, for content, and we get to interview people and learn, but it's fun too. Yeah. You have to learn about things, not just in our industry, but other stuff. It's just really enjoyable. Like we genuinely enjoy doing this a lot. So
Cool.
I hope that answers your question?
Totally does. Yeah.
Anything you guys want to leave us with that we didn't maybe touch on? Or
I'd say just, thank you for having us on. And hopefully there's something that someone can take out of this podcast, listening to Scottish dude and dumb guy. Scottish dumb, not both.
I'm dumb too. Listening to a Scottish dumb guy and a Canadian dumb guy. There you go.
If people want to check out your businesses or what you guys are doing outside of here, where can they find you? Social media, websites, all that.
Everything's David Smith Homes Group for me, pretty much.
Yeah, then ours is on the Schreder brothers side of things. Yeah.
Great. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us, and I can almost guarantee we'll have you guys back in the future.
Sounds good.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you.
We did it.
Yeah. Well done, guys. That was fun. So.